Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the June 20th edition of the Courtside with Coach Crist Show. I'm Greg Crist. That is not Dave Gorby. That is Coach Jason Blankenship, kind enough to step in and fill the extra large shoes of Dave Gorby.
It's tough, but if I get the opportunity, I'll try. I respect the guy a lot, and I'll take care of him for a week.
I'm not sure what happened to Gorby today. Just texted me and said I'm not going to be able to be here Thursday. But that was about Monday, so I bet there was a big golf tournament somewhere.
Yeah, that or he's been on some adventures. Look like on Facebook, some of the national parks and stuff. So he might have found something to do this week.
Yeah, he might have had more important things to tend to, I guess. We appreciate everybody joining us. We'd ask you to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a like, comment on Facebook. That always helps us keep doing this kind of stuff. And we want to send out a special thank you, Coach, to Mike Dunlap. Mike has been instrumental in helping us get our guests lined up. And no different this week. Last week he had a professional fisherman lined up for us. And we had Jay Phillips on last week, and that was a pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah, interesting, yeah.
You know, not something you think about often. But something we've all done, fished and all that. But it was interesting to hear how they get ready for tournaments and how they practice and what kind of stuff they do to prepare and all that. Is really enlightening. It's interesting stuff. I had a guy just at work told me that, hey, just let him know, I need the boat. I got all the equipment. I got all the skill. I just don't have the boat or the sponsors. That's probably the hardest things to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll pass that on to him, I guess, at some point. Tonight, again, Mike Dunlap responsible for getting these guys tonight. Two coaches, Allan Johnson, strength coaches and conditioning coaches, and a gentleman by the name of Dave Lawson. And, you know, the thing about these kind of folks, you don't often hear their names, when they're talking about coaches, the head coach, assistant coach, et cetera. But these guys probably play the most instrumental role in a program that anybody does.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know that from your time coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that any program can be successful without the strength and conditioning program. And those guys spend probably more time with the athletes than the regular coaches, the head coaches and assistants. And so every program has some of these guys, but like you said, you don't hear about them. But they're there and they're doing a great job.
Yep, absolutely. And you know, that world has changed quite a bit over the years. And I'm sure you were kind of right in the midst of the change. I was out before the big changes came.
Yeah.
But when I was in high school, we didn't lift weights. Yeah. You know, we had one machine. It was like a hydraulic thing that we fooled around with. But as far as actually lifting weights and stuff, we didn't do that when I was in school. And now, I mean, it's all geared towards strength and conditioning now.
Yeah, it was football only there for a while, but everybody does now. Even some of your golfers and athletes that play different sports. So it's grown, and it's exciting to see because sometimes if you don't have the most athletic skills in the world, that can make up for it, being strong.
Right. And these guys, I'll read their bios here in just a little bit, but both of them with extensive experience in this and have coached at big-time universities and the professional level and all that. So it should be fun to talk to those guys here in just a little bit. Normally we have Muggy McLeod on right here at the beginning, do our weather and traffic. But Muggy he got a new helicopter, and I think he's trying to fill out the helicopter and figure some things out about it. So we've moved Muggy toward the back end of the show, give him a chance to get that thing up in the air.
Probably safe to do something like that.
Get him up in the air and get him going. So we'll get back with Muggy here in a little bit. And Blank, since last time you has been here, I think Dave and I, we started a new segment on here, and I know you're not prepared for this, so I'll take care of it tonight. We have a segment we call Hell Yeah and Hell No, and what we do on those, we reflect on something that happened during the week, give the hell yeahs or the hell no's, and then we talk about it for just a little bit. And I have mine ready. I've studied on these this week and got them ready. The first hell yeah is, of course, to my favorite basketball team in the world, the Boston Celtics. And not only, favorite team, but a friend of our families is the head coach. And we're really thrilled for him. And they pulled down their 18th NBA championship. And we're tickled to death with that. And, one of the things as a Celtics fan, you have to be a hater of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you're my age, because that was the big rivalry in the 80s, So they kept talking about this championships. Boston has 18 now. They eclipsed the Lakers with 17. And I start looking back, and I'm thinking, I don't remember the Lakers. I was around some, watched some early on, but I said, I remember Jerry West and them won one. And I said, but I don't remember any other than there in the 80s with Magic and those guys. So I started looking up, the first 5 or 6 it was in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
And I said, that don't count.
Yeah,
That's not the Los Angeles Lakers.
Even more reason to hate them, right?
That's exactly right. So Lakers fans can suck it. Yeah. You got 18, and you got about 12.
Hey, the Lakers won the in-season tournament this year, right? We'll give them a pat on the back for that.
They can hoist their banners. Yeah, they can hoist them a banner for that. I think that's great. So the Celtics should make a big to-do about that when they put their banner up and say, this ain't no mid-season tournament banner.
Mid-season,
it's the finals banner. So anyway, that's my first hell yeah. My second one, you can add in on this a little bit. Oak Hill and Trail football facilities, actually all sports facilities they're calling them, both schools go to get AstroTurf on their fields. And that's awesome. I mean, desperately needed.
We're behind on that, and it's amazing to see. I've been down to the field, and they've already started work, and they're working around the clock, it seems like. These guys are on the weekend and stuff, so I hope that it's ready for the season. Oak Hill has, I don't know about Trail, but Oak Hill has first 2 games away, and so that gives us a little bit more time to get that field ready. But I think it'll be ready in time, and our kids deserve it in Fayette County for a long time, and it's going to be exciting to see them on that field.
Yep, that is going to be great. And, those 2 fields, both of them, by the time the end of the season rolls around, it's really hard to host a playoff game because the field's in such bad shape, And I know they've been able to host a couple, but they don't ever get anybody else coming. Yeah. Nobody asking to come and play on it.
I remember my last year coaching, Midland Trail had a Grittorama scrimmage at the beginning of the year. Rain, everything was bad. And that field was in bad shape all season. All season, never recovered. And so they're playing soccer on that field over there. I believe their midget league may even play some over there at Trail. So that's going to be middle school. Yeah. So you bet that many games on a field like that, it's going to have issues. And so I'm excited for them too.
And the thing that I remember is when I first started at Midland Trail, it's when it first opened. We started the middle of my freshman year. We went up there in February. Throughout my high school days, advanced PE classes, we advanced out to the football field and advanced the wheelbarrow back and forth, hauling rocks off of it. And we hauled all the rocks off that thing. So I never got to play a game on that field up there.
That's your strength conditioning
right
there.
Yeah. We played down at Anstead until the 82 season, I think, is when they finally started playing home games up there. Yeah, all we did pick up rocks off that thing. But that's fantastic. That's going to be great for the kids, community, both places. And Oak Hill's field just really had a drainage problem. You had some really bad spots in it, and for a 4A school, that needs to be rectified. And the facility should be top notch. I mean, you're supposedly one of the bigger schools in the state,
and we're getting a new track, so we'll be able to host track meets again at Oak Hill, which at one time Oak Hill was one of the top areas to have a track meet in West Virginia. So we're excited to have that back as well.
Yeah, had some big, nice events, track events there. So that'll be awesome. So anyway, hats off to whoever's responsible for that. That's greatly needed and really appreciated, I'm sure, by the folks who have kids in school, the kids themselves, and then all of us who are fans and like to watch games. It'd be a lot easier to call a game over now too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was a Bluefield game last year, or a couple years ago we did, and you couldn't see the numbers. It was rain and mud. So, absolutely going to be a lot better.
Yeah, it'll be a lot easier. For the Hell Nolls, my first one, of course, legendary baseball player Willie Mays passed away this past week, 93 years old. And I know, again, I'm old, but I don't really remember him playing maybe toward the end of his career a little bit. But everything I've listened to, all the tributes on the radio and talk shows I listen to, talk about him being maybe one of the best baseball players ever, that he had just gifts all the way around, and tributes to him. And he's, wasn't the greatest hitter, but he was a great hitter. Yeah. And he obviously a good defender and made some of the, the famous catch over his shoulder and all that. So that's a hell of all. We lost him. We've lost some folks here recently. With him, Jerry West, Bill Walton, some real icons that have passed away. And same thing about, I said last night on our show up in Morgantown, we were talking about Jerry West, and I said, the thing we need to look at and do is these guys live nice long lives. West and Willie Mays both celebrate their lives instead of bemoaning their passing, because that's going to happen to all of us. And so we like to kind of keep it positive that way. So same thing for Willie Mays. And they got that big game tonight. I think they call it Brickyard Park or something.
Celebrating old leagues. So
the old Negro League.
That's great.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. All right, the second hell no. And I read this, just caught it on the news the other day. And I'm like, man, a couple of weeks ago it was flying spiders I read about. Maybe I need to stay off the news sites. that was my hell and all then. My hell and all this time is there was a warning that came out from the Florida. Hey, Darren, is there any way we can quiet him in the background? He's getting a little loud. Must be beating his dog. He's probably bench pressing his dog. The dog's like, what are you doing, man? Anyway, the warning came from the Florida Mosquito Control Association.
Jeez.
They met with 80 different groups across the country, and they are putting out the info that mosquitoes are the most deadly living thing on the planet, besides humans, of course. Other than humans, they lead the world with an annual kill count of 1 million. And that's all over the world, but 1 million people, and malaria and all kinds of different diseases they spread. And they gave this warning because they said it's going to be a bad year for it, and that people need to be cautious and be careful. And I thought, something else, some other kind of bug that you got to worry about. Man.
Why not? Just add it to the list.
Golly. So anyway, watch out for them mosquitoes out there. And, I always said, I guess when a mosquito sees me, they think, fat and juicy. And they eat me alive. Mosquitoes wear me out. Fleas can get on me all day, and they'll jump off. They don't want nothing to do with them. Mosquitoes, though, now they get in there. They like the blood, I guess. And they'll eat me alive. So that's all I needed to hear was not only do we have flying spiders, but now we have killer mosquitoes. I'm like, gee whiz. That's my other hell and all for the week. And, this time of year, not a whole lot going on sports-wise now. I think the hockey has their game 6 tomorrow night, I believe.
They're almost wrapped up, yeah.
I actually watched some of that the other night, and it was pretty interesting to watch. Pretty fun.
I heard the last game 5, was a great game.
Yeah.
Somebody said the last 8 minutes was some of the best action you've seen all year in hockey. So I'm not a big hockey fan, but
no.
I think it's an exciting sport, though.
Yep, I'm not really a hockey fan, and I think mainly is because I don't know the rules.
Yeah, that's part of it.
And it's hard to understand, what's going on. There used to be, back in the day when I was a kid, on Saturdays they would show a hockey game, but an hour prior to the game coming on, they had a little cartoon character on there called Peter Puck. Peter Puck come out and he'd skate around. He'd tell you what the ruals were.
Oh, okay.
So this is icing and this is offsides, whatever. Yeah. So I learned a little bit of the rules then. I like to watch them. Then I forgot all about that because I quit doing it. So I don't know any of the rules now. I had a roommate in college who's an avid hockey fan, knows everything about it, and goes crazy watching the games. And I've actually gone to a game or two up in Wheeling. Yeah. The Wheeling Nailers have a semi-pro team up there. And I don't know what's going on, but when the Wheeling fans cheer, I cheer. But it's fun to watch.
Yeah,
and
it's supposedly a live event. It's one of the best to go to. Sporting events.
My dad one time told me he'd been to every type of pro sporting event there was, and without question, hockey was the most exciting. He said he'd been football, basketball, baseball, boxing, and but he said hockey was by far the best, the most exciting.
In live, So I'm going to have to try one. I'm going to have to go find me a hockey game sometime.
Like I said, we went to watch Wheeling a couple times. They're fun to watch. I mean, not the best players, obviously, but still, the game moves so fast and the puck moves so fast. That's hard. That's another thing hard about keeping up with the puck, seeing where it goes. I have a hard time with that. But good sport. But other than that, you got the WNBA. I think they're trying to pull some ratings. But
and then baseball. So it's a slow summer until football comes back around, which it seems like. The free agency in NBA, that's exciting. Yeah. Sometimes it's time of the year, but football, that's what everybody's waiting for. Everybody's waiting for football.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no knock on baseball. I mean, there's so many games in baseball, I don't think people pay much attention to it anymore until the fall and the playoffs start. Of course, then they got to compete with football. But nobody's excited about watching the Padres and the Brewers, on Wednesday night. And that's tough for them, but.
I tried the UFL, the football league, and I just couldn't get into it really. I'm going to have to learn some names maybe. There's some big-name coaches, but some of the players are guys you haven't heard of. They're trying to make it to the NFL, and I think some of them have.
Some of them been in there, Just
hard, I guess, if it's not in your area to grab hold of something like that.
Yeah. And again, the time of year, it's hard. In summertime, sitting down and watch football. This really is. It's always been a problem for them. All these leagues has tried it and never have been able to pull it off. The WNBA... they talked about how that was going to have a resurgence of fans and all that, but I don't believe that's going to happen either. I think people they will tune in to watch Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, some of the bigger games.
And they won't tune in to any other ones. And I'm not going to lie. I've always said I've never have been a girls basketball fan. I never really watched much women's basketball. in the college level, I never watched much of it.
Yeah.
And, it's just, to me, it's you go watch and you see Caitlin Clark, that's great. But it's women's basketball, and nothing against them. I'm just not a fan of it, so I'm not going to watch, regardless.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of fans are like that. If they don't watch it or like it, they just don't watch it.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you do. You put all this stuff with Angel Reese and stuff going on now, has people talking about it. But I don't know that that's actually going to draw fans.
Viewership, yeah. And even in the NBA, it's hard for me to watch a regular season game.
Oh, yeah.
The playoffs amps up. People get involved. I enjoy watching even the early rounds.
Yeah.
So for the WNBA, to have regular season games during the summer, it's going to be tough to get those viewership. But hopefully they can. I hope they can grow it and get some of those women paid more than school teacher wages.
Right. Getting more than what they are. That's for sure. Yeah. You hope it takes off. But like you said, it's just so hard. And I'm like you with the NBA. I'll watch the Celtics occasionally if they're on, but not intently.
No.
And I don't watch much NBA at all until playoffs. And quite honestly, I don't watch really until the conference finals is when I get interested. Now, with the Celtics being in it, I watched all that. But I used to not be that way. But when I was younger, you didn't get all these games 24/7. There wasn't games on all the time.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's it's not interesting after you watch so many, And but I do like to watch some of the sports, and I'll tune into different types of things now. There's college baseball World Series going on.
It's on.
That's another sport that's never really taken off. I think more people might watch women's softball.
I think I heard that women's softball might be the fastest growing college sport right now.
Yeah.
So the huge crowds and it's exciting. It's fast paced, kind of like the hockey. It's a smaller field and stuff.
Yep.
But those baseball games can drag out sometimes. They're hard, and I could imagine the heat out there at those games right now.
Yeah, trying to go watch.
Sitting there, but
and the softball. I love watching the girls softball. I think it's exciting.
Yeah,
and the baseball's exciting. I mean, they got those aluminum bats. They really banging around, but those scores a lot of times will be 14-13 stuff like that. And so it gets away from you some too. But I like the softball.
Yeah.
And so there's not a whole lot going on right now sports wise, but still a few things we can check out, and not things I don't think we're totally interested in. But the good thing is we're getting close.
Yeah.
When August gets here, it's time.
It's time.
So we'll be looking forward to that. And no more mosquitoes, killer mosquitoes at that. All right, let's take us a quick break. I think. We may have Muggy McLeod calling in or being ready before we get our guests on. I think we've got both of those guys hooked up now. Allan Johnson and Dave Lawson, two strength and conditioning coaches. And I've talked to Al before. We had him on our show up in Morgantown. Got to talk to him up there. Looking forward to talking to those guys. Should be interesting stuff. I know it'll be interesting stuff. So we'll get those guys on here in just a moment. So I hope you'll stay with us here on the Courtside with Coach Crist show. You're watching on the New River Network. We'll be back after these messages. Stay with us.
Wrestling is coming to you every Thursday at 9 p.m. on the New River Network. See hard-hitting wrestling action from today's rising stars in independent wrestling. If you are a wrestling fan of any generation, let us introduce you to the hottest wrestling promotion in West Virginia. You can also join a live show at the Crossroads Mall. Retro Reset Wrestling is coming to you every Thursday at 9 p.m. on the New River Network.
Welcome back to the Courtside with Coach Crist show. Greg Crist, Jason Blankenship here with us. Thrilled to have him on, filling in for the Gorbmeister. He's out on some trek somewhere today. We don't know where he's at. We mentioned a couple of strength and conditioning coaches we're going to have on here in just a second. I want to read bios first on these guys, and this is going to take a while. I don't want to take up all their time reading about their histories, but pretty impressive. So I'll read it quick. First, Al Johnson, originally from Parkersburg, went to Parkersburg High. Coached 35-plus years at the high school, college, and professional levels as a strength and conditioning coach. He coached collegiately at WVU, Ohio State, Northwestern, and East Tennessee State universities. He coached professionally with the Baltimore Orioles, and I think he was the first strength and conditioning coach in baseball. Wow. And it says, the bio says history of the Baltimore Orioles. He's one of the first three in Major League Baseball, so one of the original strength and conditioning coaches there. And I got to ask him this question here in just a minute. He was the first Major League Baseball strength coach to get ejected from a baseball game. So don't let me forget to ask. I put a little star by that one. I was like, I got to ask you about that. Coached 75 collegiate All-Americans in football. Member of Don Nehlen's WVU staff and went undefeated in 93 and 89 or 88, whenever that was. Played for the national championship. Member of Northwest University football staff that won 10 games for the first time in 49 years. Coached 29 postseason football and basketball bowl games, Sweet 16s, NCAA tournaments. Part of Jim Tressel's staff at Ohio State University, won a national championship there. 2 years as a football, basketball, and track coach at the high school level. And the list goes on. 6-time Big East strength and conditioning coach at WVU. In 2000, recognized as one of the first 10 master strength conditioning coaches in the world by Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association. Highest honor that can be bestowed on a strength and conditioning coach. So there you go. Named the Strength and Conditioning Coach of the Year by the NFL Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association. That was in 2002. In the Strength and Conditioning Hall of Fame in 2003. Inducted into the Mid-Ohio Valley Sports Hall of Fame in Parkersburg in 2010. He co-authored The Golden Age of Strength and Conditioning, a book that came out in 2019. He co-authored Weight Room Wisdom, Lessons in Leadership from 99 Strength Coaches, also in 2019. He's a Strength and Conditioning Coach Hall of Fame member of the Select Committee, and he currently serves on the executive team as the Chief Executive Officer for the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association.
Not bad.
That's a bio. That's a bio right there. Coach Lawson, and his bio, when I pulled it up, some of the stuff was a little bit out of touch. It was a little old, but he's a graduate of West Virginia Tech, which I didn't know that. And when I researched that, I found that out. He obviously coached there for a while, in 92 and 93. Part of 11 teams that played in bowl games, including Tennessee Volunteers, 2015 Tax Layer Championship Bowl. 4 that won conference championships, 3 years at Cincinnati as Assistant Athletic Director of Sports Performance and Director of Football Strength and Conditioning. The Bearcats won 2 football conference championships while he served as director. Spent 3 years at Central Michigan, where he oversaw and directed strength and conditioning efforts for 16 CMU varsity athletic programs, so the whole athletic program. Certified strength and conditioning coach by Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Association, certified speed and explosion specialist by the National Association of Speed and Explosion. Didn't know they had such things. I never was a part of any of those. Maybe if I threw something out the window and had to speed away that blew up, a can of soda blew up when it hit the road and I sped away. That was my speed and explosion. Coached 24 strength and conditioning All-Americans. 2009 recognized as Master Strength and Conditioning Coach, the highest honor that they can get. Spent 6 years working at Eastern Michigan, and he also coached at Tennessee. Was there for quite a while. Worked at West Virginia for 7 seasons, 94 to 01. He started as a graduate assistant there. Let's see, what else we have? He's a charter member of the Power System Advisory Board. So that's part of their bios. That's not even all of their bios. So I didn't want to take up the whole show just reading about their credentials. So we want to welcome Coach Al Johnson and Coach Dave Lawson to the show. And I think they're both hooked up. And Darren, if you want to get them popped up there they are. Hey, guys.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
All right. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you doing this. We hope the technology wasn't too complicated. Sometimes for Jason and I, we don't have a clue how it all works, so we don't know what to tell anybody. But we appreciate both of you taking the time to join us tonight. And I hope I didn't screw up your bios any. I didn't have enough time to read the entire thing. So what I want to do is, if you guys don't mind, I'll probably go to one and then the other of you to answer some questions, so we don't talk over top of each other with this, again, type of technology. It's kind of difficult sometimes. But I do want to hear from both of you about how your careers in this field came about. When you were growing up, were you just naturally strong and wanted to be stronger and wanted to teach people how to get strong, or is it something that evolved from something else, your playing days, or what? So, Dave, if you want to go first and tell us how you got started in this.
I was a very average athlete and was just trying to find an edge. So my dad got me out doing push-ups, set-ups, pull-ups, using the old weight stats that are plastic with concrete on the inside, and just started lifting, gaining confidence from that. And just that really motivated me. One thing that's helped me is I have a lot of connections with some tech guys. Obviously, Al was instrumental in giving me a GA position. Richard, a.k.a. Dickie Williams, played at West Virginia Tech, got me started at Milton High School, and then working with Bob Goeb on some other guys. I've been lucky to be around some good guys that have helped me along the way.
That's awesome. Al, how about you?
I tell you what, I had two older brothers that were very active. They were high school football players, and I grew up in a very active lifestyle in terms of back then we weren't playing video games. Pac-Man wasn't even around yet, and Game Boys weren't great. But started that way and just stayed active, and then got into lifting when I got into high school, and then of course college, and then the way I got in this profession, so to speak, I'd applied for 60 graduate assistant positions and got rejected or no response from 59 of them to be a strength conditioning graduate assistant. And the one lead I did get, I went for an interview. Is Georgetown College in Kentucky. Went there, didn't feel good about the interview, and so came home. I thought, geez, what am I going to do now? I graduated from Glenville State College, and the only graduate assistant position I applied for as a strength conditioning coach was at WVU. And ironically, I was accepted as a GA, and that started my path as a strength conditioning coach. But originally, I wanted to be a football coach.
Gotcha. Well, we were talking before we came on the air, and this has become such an integral part of every program now. The importance of that is unbelievable. When I played football in high school, we didn't lift weights. We never saw weight, but tickles me to know that you're a graduate of Glenville State, Pioneers. I'm also a graduate of Glenville State. Never did do much there, but did go to class and got a degree, so I worked a little bit of it. Yeah. For both of you, and again, Dave, we'll let you go first here. We were curious about the different types of, maybe strength or workouts. And some of these questions may sound crazy because I don't know a lot about this, but you have different types of players, you have different size players, you have different skill sets with players. How do you go about building strength and conditioning in different styles and different types and different sizes of players?
I think people have they develop their own philosophy. You have Olympic, you have power lifters, you have back in the day bodybuilders, and they would all bring that into strength training. And that's kind of, if you look back years ago, that was kind of the way they did what they were comfortable with.
Right.
What I've tried to do is sit back and watch Al, watch these other guys and learn from them. My philosophy would be multidisciplined. I don't even know that that's in a book, but I take a little bit of everything and put it into a total program, because you'll have these football players. I mean, they may get 3 breaks a year, so they're with you all the time, and you need to make it fresh. You need to change it up for them and give them some variety, or they will get burnt out really, really quick. The Power 5 football player will go home maybe for a week in May, and then they will be with you all summer. And then that's not even that the season hasn't even started yet, and they've been there for probably 12, 15 weeks.
Right.
And that takes its toll on a person, especially nowadays. They've got so many more stressors on them, even including the NIL, transfer portal, and all that stuff. That just adds more static to what we're doing. My philosophy is more like multidiscipline. I use a little bit of everything. I do explosive stuff. There's a bodybuilding component because you're always fighting to keep size on the players. Stuff like so. It's a mix of everything. I'm not just one thing. I'm a little bit of everything, and it depends on what time of the year. With the different body types, the program. One thing you'll get in recruiting, everybody talks about how everybody does an individualized program for their kids. I don't know how you could do a 120 individualized program, have an organization, but what we'll do is you have like a base general things they do, squat, some kind of Olympic movement, clean, something explosive, bench press, incline, whatever. But then from there, that's where you will like kind of individualize from there what a position or an injured athlete or something like that needs, and you can specify a little bit more with them.
Al, you want to take a shot there with it?
Yeah, I tell you what, Dave pretty much covered a full gamut of great information there. I tell you what, when I started out, when I was in the 80s, I started in the 80s, early 80s, and, we're talking about some of the athletes we work with were not very foundationally very strong. They were they were kids that weren't recruited very highly. At West Virginia, some of the kids weren't recruited very highly, and they were developmental. And so with that in mind, my premise was that of such a building as much strength as we could build. Yeah. And as time evolved, and you got later in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s, the premise was started to move in terms of the emphasis on speed, explosion, change of movement, change of direction, more so than it had ever been before. I mean, not that you didn't want those components before, but I'd agree with Dave. It depends on the time of the year you're training an athlete in terms of what the modality is, of types of training you're going to use, whether it be powerlifting or strongman or Olympic movements, power movements. It just depends on time of year. But the thing is, I can tell you, the one thing I think that the general public does not realize, I mean, Power 5, Division I, it's a job. It's not little to no breaks. I mean, and that's the thing as a strength conditioning coach. It's a balance. You really have to find a balance in terms of how you train them because, like Dave said, there's so much stress. There's so many stressors in their life, and probably more so now than there's ever been. But it's one of such. There's got to be a great balance in the training. And now Dave's especially the last 3 years. I mean, a lot more emphasis on nutrition and recovery, and mobility, flexibility has always been there. But it depends on what level you're at. I mean, like let's say for example, Dave can tell you this, and I can share this with you. At the Power 5, I mean, you have basically everything at your right at your feet, the things that you need to implement and do with your players. I mean, when you're at a mid-major or you're an FCS school or Division II, Division III school, I mean, you got to be a better coach, and you have to be creative and be able to adapt with what you have. And those are the neat things. I know that's gotten away from the philosophy in terms of philosophy, but I think those are important things for people to know that just because a kid is at a certain level doesn't mean he's getting what he needs. And, but it's really evolved.
You're right. Al, I need to ask you, when I was reading your bio, I don't know if you heard all of it, but there was part of it that said you were the first, maybe the only strength and conditioning coach to get ejected from a Major League Baseball game. And we got to know what went on there. We got to hear this one.
Tell you what, my first year in Major League Baseball with the Orioles, our third base coach was a guy by the name of Cal Ripken Sr. Billy Ripken, second baseman, Cal Ripken, the shortstop, his brother, was up to bat. He got called on a check swing, third strike. And, this is my first year. I'd only been in baseball like 3 months. We're playing at Kansas City Royals in Kansas City. And, the players always said, hey, if you ever see Cal Sr., if you ever see the veins starting to pop in his neck, then watch out, get out of his way. So I was in the dugout, and so the home plate umpire, he calls Billy out on checks, third on a swing, third strike. So here's the third base coach, which you never see ever in baseball. He comes running down the third base line towards the home plate umpire to argue about his son getting his third strike called on. And he smoked cigarettes and chewed tobacco, and so I'm sure he spit tobacco juice all over the home plate umpire and cussing him. And so our manager, Hall of Fame manager, Frank Robinson, who, if those of you listening, I don't know if you know this trivia question, the only player to be MVP in both the American League and National League was Frank Robinson.
Yeah.
So he comes out to separate Cal Sr. away from the home plate umpire. While this is going on, we're in the third base dugout in Kansas City. Guys are catcalling. They're yelling at the umpires. You guys stink. Blah, blah, blah. Well, the third base umpire, he took about 5 minutes worth of this. He turns and wheels and he points in the dugout and he says, "You're out of here." So, of course, I'm not making eye contact with him. I know it's not me. So the guy beside me is a pitcher who's on injured reserve, a guy named Mickey Weston, and he's due to come off the injured list 2 days later. And so anyway, he tells Weston, "Hey, 24, you're out of here. Get out of the dugout." So Weston starts walking down the dugout to go in the clubhouse, and Frank Robinson tells the home plate umpire, "No, find out later. You can't throw him out. Don't throw him out. I need him to pitch in a couple of days." He goes, "Throw my strength coach out. He has no purpose in the dugout." So I get to, so here I am. I'm on national TV. It's ESPN Sunday night, and my parents always said I was the dumbest of 5 kids. So I'm standing in the dugout with my hands out to the side like this, like, what are you talking about? So anyway, long story short, you can walk down the dugout steps into the clubhouse, and there's Cal Ripken Sr. We're watching the game on TV on the monitor. And so wouldn't you know, there's a rain delay. There's a rain delay. So here comes the whole team. It's about fifth inning. Frank Robinson comes in. He's ripping me. He goes, is your old job back here in the hills of West Virginia? It's still open. He goes, you may want to call back here. Because first of all, you didn't even get your money's worth. Get kicked out of the game. You didn't even step out of the dugout. You're a coward. He says, so anyway, long story short, I found out that he was doing that as like a tongue in cheek, just to kind of bust my chops. But that was my experience. I got fined $500 and was going to send 500 pennies to Seelig. I was going to put them in a box and send them to Bud Selig as my pay for my fine. And lo and behold, a couple of days before I was supposed to send it out, the deadline, 3 of our players with the Orioles came in, and Cal Ripken Jr., Kurt Schilling, and Mike Messina came in my office in the stadium and said, "You need to learn how to keep your mouth shut. We'll pay for this one. We'll pay for this one. The next one and any of those after this are all on you." So that was my story. But I got kicked out. I didn't say a word.
That's great. What a great story. Dave, you got anything to match that?
No.
I don't think too many people would.
No, that's good.
That's unbelievable.
He's got a few more good ones. I wish he'd tell, but he probably won't.
I can imagine. You guys, both of you have done this for a long time. How has the idea for conditioning, how has all that changed over the last, 15 years or so? Because I think any of us that watch sports know you can see, not only football players, but you see golfers and you see baseball players that are just, really strong and explosive. It used to be, in football, you would see some guys that were big, but they weren't like they are now, where they're cut and they can move and all that. How's the focus of conditioning and strength all changed in big time football?
Me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
I think with the up-tempo stuff, that really changed everything. I was lucky to be with Coach Nealon, and we ran a pro-style offense at East Tennessee State. Randy Sanders ran the same type thing, so you didn't have to really be overly concerned. I mean, you always want your players in shape. I'm kind of old school on that thing. I think a player should never be out of shape. They've got to keep a certain level of conditioning. But I think when the up-tempo, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, it made conditioning. It's a huge thing now. They've got to be in shape. They've got to be able to run. At Tennessee and Cincinnati, we would have wideouts running 3 miles per practice, which is like crazy. And so you have to, as a strength coach, you have to take a step back and say, holy smokes, what are we doing here? And you've got to get them prepared for that. But at the same time, you can't run them into the ground.
Right.
Now, they're going to think anytime they run more than 3 steps that you're killing them, you're running them in the ground and you're horrible. But I mean, there's a method to what you're doing. You can follow the GPS stuff. I used old school GPS. I had GAs track the yardage while we ran and practice with a yellow notepad. It's pretty good. They really love that. But I think a lot of it, that's when it really, really changed a lot. And you have to match that, because once you get in a game, I used to tell our players all the time, you can go to a certain level and match another team. But if you're not in shape, they're just going to keep going right there, and you're going to drop. And by that fourth quarter, you don't gut it out. If you're empty, if your tank's empty, you don't gut it out. So I think it's changed a lot. I think in some ways, and Al can maybe test this, we used to do a lot longer running, which I'm not completely against 100%, because I think they do have to have a little bit of an aerobic base, which helps them recover, especially with this up-tempo stuff. But we used to do a lot of 400s, stuff like that, which I never really liked running on tracks and all that. But I do think there's got to be days you've got to match your running with what your lifting is. So I'm not going to go out and run real sharp, fast cuts after doing heavy squats. Yeah. But I think there is something to that when you go out and you run after you squat and your legs are really, really tired, that you have to grind through that. There's a mental toughness factor to that. So I think it's being smart with how you do it, being aware of how much you're doing, and just going from there and knowing your kids. You got to know who your studs are, and when they're dragging, you better back off and adjust what you're doing.
I got you. Go ahead, Al.
I would say, that Dave brings up some great points. It's, the thing is, the premise of conditioning, I think Dave would agree. The best, the way you have buy-in, and I'll talk about conditioning specifically, but the way you have buy-in with your athletes is it's midway through the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, and your athletes or your players are coming to you on the sideline as a coach and said, "Coach, look, they already got their hands on their knees. They're already kneeling down." To me, that tells you that all the, what's the quote? I'd rather bleed in preparation than die in a battle. I'd rather bleed in preparation than die in a battle. And what I mean by that is that, the pride of conditioning and being in great shape and being able to look at your opponent and knowing that they're getting ready to tap out. But I agree with Dave. I mean, early on, I know in the 80s, as we've evolved and the offenses have changed, we've gone from, probably more aerobic-based distance, longer distance running now to more anaerobic. And there is a place for, some aerobic training for your athletes. But it depends on the time of year. And as we're getting closer, we're getting 6-8 weeks in from camp. We're not running distance. We're running short, sharper sprints, shorter distance, more specific to their position. That's the thing that's really neat and has evolved, I think, is that the conditioning now, we've tried to make it more position specific. Offensive lineman, he's not running over 40 to 60 yards total. Most of the stuff is going to be shorter duration, whereas wide receivers, DBs, tight ends, running backs, those type of guys may run 60 to 80 yards. And so you try to customize your conditioning to fit the position. In college, we can do that. In high school, you can't do that because you may have a kid that plays 2 or 3 different positions. Mm-hmm. So I might line up at fullback on offense and defense. I may be a defensive end, or I may be a down lineman, whatever it may be, because I play multiple positions. But conditioning is to me is the great separator in terms of success and how look at teams deep midway through the fourth quarter. Look at the teams. Look at how they perform, and then look at you can tell what kind of a job that football staff, and especially the finger is always pointed at the strength coach. As you get into week 5 to 7, 8 in the season, you start looking at players and man, we don't look as explosive. It goes back to, did you leave your best game in practice? Did you over condition them? You still have coaches that do quite a bit of conditioning in season, but it's a fine line, and it's recovery, and it's a science in terms of trying to prep kids in season, conditioning wise, to be able to sustain 12, 14 weeks.
Right. I was just getting ready to ask how much of it today is science. I know we have analytics in a lot of sports. I have to think that. There's a lot of study on the human body and that sort of thing. Do you guys, as that coach at that university, who everybody's dependent on, do you get into the science of it? Do you have to study that and understand the science of everything in order to implement your programs, or how does all that work? I know a lot of it is science. And Dave, you can go first.
I think it's all science. I mean, we've run this new kick the last 10 years where we have new positions made, sports science guys, but it's all based on science. Exercise physiology is a science. It's a thing that we all have to have a knowledge of. I think there's a place for the sports science guys and all that, but I think it has to be a cohesive unit working together, because if that person makes a call, I can't just go against it, and vice versa. He can't say, don't run them today, they're tired.
Right.
Well, when you're playing Texas, if you're at West Virginia, you're playing Texas, nobody's going to care what happened in June and July. Right. What's happening right now, they better be in shape to do it. And I think it's all science. I mean, we're always reading articles. We're always reading research articles, trying to better ourselves. I don't think it's one or the other. I think a good program, it's all together.
Awesome. Good answer. Al, you want to add anything to that?
I agree with Dave. And I still think part of it's still an art, though. I think as a coach, what works, what doesn't work. How hard you can push them. Where the brink of overtraining, undertraining them. You get a feel. We spend, as a strength conditioning coach, we spend so much time with these athletes. We know these athletes. You have an offense, defense coordinator, you have a head coach. The head coach and the strength conditioning coach are the only two in the building are responsible for the entire team. And so we're the ones that, in terms of knowing what their threshold of pain is, what their threshold of over-conditioning is, we know that. And I think that's the big separate. But I agree with Dave. There's a lot of science. We have to have a background in exercise physiology, kinesiology, physiology. We have to know the basic premise of training. But, at times it comes down to an art. There's got to be times where you get to say, one more, or hey, that's enough. Yeah. And that's science, but also it's an art of coaching, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I think
one thing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm with Al. I think we're on the same page. But the thing that you won't find with sports science, there's not a meter that gauges toughness, heart, intensity, all the stuff that you see the great players sometimes have. I've had guys that will run crazy amounts through the week of practice during a season on every special teams. And if you look at the number, you may be like, oh my gosh, but it doesn't phase the kid. He can do it. And I don't want to pull him back if he's still performing at a high level, because he may be the difference in us beating Ole Miss, Texas, or whatever team you're playing.
Right.
I think what Al's saying with the art, I think that's the magic right there, is the art. Can you put it together and weed out the stuff you don't need to pay attention to, and just get right to the heart of what needs to be done?
Yeah. And Dave, you bring a great point. It's science is measurable. Art is not measurable. I can't measure the art of coaching. I can see the end result, or I can see the result of my coaching prowess or my knowledge or my wisdom. But I think that, like say science is measurable, but, the thing is that what works and what doesn't work. And, and the biggest thing, Greg, the biggest thing that we as strength conditioning coaches do or have done is trying to improve this that 6-inch length between one earlobe to the other.
Yeah.
It's called the 6-inch war. And and you know what? And we can the best teams that consistently win, are successful, and play hard. And you say, "Wow, I'm glad we got by that. I'm glad that game's over. I'm glad we got that game behind us." But those are the teams that mentally are stronger. Maybe not so much physically stronger. They may be mentally stronger and more confident than their opponent.
You're talking about it being a science, and I know nutrition is a big part of that nowadays. And I just think it's amazing when you look at a major program and the emphasis they have on the strength and conditioning, the recovery part of it, the nutritional part of it. It's really fascinating, and it's come quite a long ways. I was just laughing to myself thinking while you guys were talking about the different types of conditioning. When I was in high school, the basketball coaches wouldn't let us lift weights because they said, "Don't lift weights; that'll mess up your shot."
Yeah.
And now you look at these basketball players. I mean, LeBron James could be a tight end in the NFL. They're so much bigger and stronger. But that is amazing the role that plays in. What's a typical? And either one of you could answer this. Just say you got a defensive lineman, and you're in the off season, and he's 6'5" and 260, 270, 280, whatever they are nowadays. What's a typical day like for a kid like that in a strength and conditioning program at a Power 5 level?
Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead. Take it.
Well, it's a long day. If they don't like to get up early, they're in trouble. If they don't like to work till late, they're in trouble because it's not, again, I'll go back to the stressors. It's not just the lifting. The lifting and the conditioning sometimes has a bad mark on it, like you're killing kids, you're wearing them out. Well, it's not that. It's they may have to get up for a workout. I try not to bring guys in if I have to till 7. I mean, I can get it done at 7 or 6, either one. Well, I'll just do it at 7. But if I have a kid that has to come at 7 o'clock, he may have a 7 to 8 lift group or 7 to 8:30 lift group. Then by usually class, as soon as he can get some food in him, get him showered, fed, he's out. They go to class all day long. In between, they may have tutoring sessions. They may come back in the afternoon and do skill development with their coach. Then they go back and do study hall again. If they get in trouble, we always deal with the guys who get in trouble. They may come and see us again. And then they may have more study requirements, tutoring, and stuff like that. So they will go 6 a.m., 6:30 in the morning, easily till 8, 9, probably 9 o'clock at night.
That's the job aspect they talked about. Yeah.
Well,
and I've been in a couple schools, and I would challenge our kids because everybody's got that. I want to be D1. I'm D1. D1's a magical word, and I'm like, are you living it or are you pretending it? Because when you really have to go into that world, it is a beast, and that's. I think, and I'm not trying to prolong this, but that's what I think. Like me, Al and I were just talking. It's all those stressors, and then the art of coaching's knowing you have 100+ players, really knowing what they're all doing, knowing when they're tutoring sessions. I mean, you'll have schedules and charts all over your desk. It looks like a bomb went off, but it's because you've got, as a strength coach, I'd say the strength coach and head football coach know the deal.
Yeah,
they're involved with everything.
Yeah.
May not be doing everything with it, but we're aware of everything because of scheduling and the commitment the kids have.
Yep, the entire team, not just the offense or the defense or the special teams, but everybody. So I can see that. Do you when you look at your players or looked at your players, do you? I mean, visually look, or do you have to do some? Obviously, you have to do some stuff to figure it out. But how do you determine what a kid needs, to be successful? Say you got a guy come in as a D-back, and he's 6'1" and 185 pounds. When you look at that kid, do you look at him visually and say, "I got to put some weight on that kid," or "I got to put some muscle on that kid"? How do you determine what type of strength and conditioning you're going to need to apply to that particular kid?
At the Power, at the Power 5 level, I would actually watch more film I'd sometimes go sit in meetings. I'd be in some of the recruiting meetings, and I would see some of these guys when they were younger. But when they come on campus, I want to look at their body. I want to see like the before and after pictures everybody does now.
Right.
Al and I used to do that years ago. I do it. It's the best motivator you can do in your program because the kids see the results.
Right.
And if they don't see results, they ain't buying into what you're doing. But I would use them because I could see what the kids need. I could see where there's a muscle imbalance. I could see where there may be from an injury problem areas. And I could go and address those because you see them every day and you may not be able to tell that difference. But once you get a picture and you compare it side by side, oh no, I can see. And I'll use an example real quick. Dan Lefevre at Central Michigan, my first conversation with him was, I can't squat. They all say that, but we're going to. And I took Dan's before and after picture, and he was actually turned. His body was turned to the left. Well, it's from playing travel ball his whole life and being a quarterback and throwing 1 million footballs. And I saw an article the other day that the skill development volume is like off the charts now, which it is. But what happened with Dan was he had muscle imbalances, which were causing a torque on his spine, which caused him to have back pain. And we would have never seen it except for the before and after picture. I'm looking at these straps and I'm all excited, but then I started looking, something's wrong. And then it helped us to look at our program and individualize to help him. And then like without all that Al, because Al's, in my opinion, one of the best guys at developing like some of the linemen at West Virginia. I mean, I'll let him talk about that, but I think that's the importance of being able to see it, one's experience, but being able to look at them, see that change, what they need, where they need to add on, take off, whether it's body fat or put on muscle and size.
Got you. Wow.
To piggyback off what Dave's saying there is, the thing is, I mean, when they come in yearly, I mean, especially when they're freshmen, we assess them to see, where they're at, height, weight, body fat, vertical power, lateral speed, strength, etc. Measure all these things. Then what you do is talking after a few days, talking to their position coaches. Hey, how does he match up with a kid that's been in our program 3 years, 4 years? How does he match up with a starter? How do you project? And our job is about projection. It's about projecting these kids. I've got this, like you mentioned, hey, I've got there's a kid that was there with Dave and I, a guy that's a head coach for the St. Louis Battlehawks, Anthony Beck. He's 6'5".
Yep.
He comes in, he's 218 pounds. Yeah. West Virginia, we battled it out with Lafayette College, between Lafayette College and West Virginia University, to see where he was going to go play college football at. And luckily, we won out. But he was 6'5", he was 218. He looked like a scarecrow. And like, what is this kid? Is he a kicker? Is he a punter? What is he? Because is he a wide receiver? They said, no, he's a tight end. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? The thing, I remember asking him one question. Do you have any work habits at all, Anthony? If you don't, we're in trouble. We're in serious trouble. You're a mistake. And the thing was, with that, of course, he evolved. He ended up being 255 to 265 pounds, and drafted and played 11 years in the league. But the thing is like Dave said, we look at them collectively with their position group, but we also looked at them individually as to what their frames can hold. And the thing, a couple of the barometers, the things that we look at, if they get bigger and they get tighter, if they get bigger and they get slower, then guess what? It's not, I don't need a doctorate degree in exercise phys to figure out that, maybe they're too big. Yeah. Maybe they're inflexible. Those things are reducing their power and their speed. So, right. We look at them collectively as an individual, but then we hone it down to the specific position and the needs of the position. And, some kids, you look at them, they don't have that growth potential to really be big. And now I think it's why you see more hybrid tight ends now in probably the last 10 years than you've ever seen, because guys they're flipping between, like an H-back type situation, a slot, and then tight end. You see more of that. Maybe some of the guys that are not, really big, and they're maybe more athletic and they can spread the field a little bit.
Right. Yeah, fascinating stuff. Hey, we got just a little bit of time here, so real quickly I want to ask you before we get to the last part of this. Most conditioned, strongest athlete you've ever coached? Dave, you got one?
I don't know. I know some of the hardest working kids because like the numbers now blend,
Right.
but the kids that just had freakish I'm talking about work ethic that brought it every day. Those I could probably rattle off a handful of guys.
I got you. How about you?
One of the strongest big kids I've ever been around was a kid that played. Is in West Virginia football or West Virginia University Hall of Fame is Brian Joswiak. 319 pounds his senior year. He can close grip bench. I'm talking about his hands 12 to 14 inches apart. He can close grip 515 pounds in the bench press.
Wow.
That's the first thing that caught my attention. The other thing, I remember the summer of his senior year going out on Mountaineer Field and timing him with a stopwatch, timing him just to see what his 40 and what time in 40s. And I remember the guy running at 319 pounds, running a sub 5 flat 40.
Wow.
And he's running, high 4.9s, 4.97, 4.98. And I'm like, there's no way. So at the time, I asked one of my GAs, can you give me another stopwatch? Because this stopwatch has to be broken.
That's ironic. That's ironic because we got Brian's going to be on our show next Thursday night. So we already got that lined up. So he's going to be with us Thursday. So I'll have to mention it to him, tell him how slow and small you said he was.
He was one of the most, one of the most explosive big guys I think I've ever been around. But that was probably one of the strongest. I can tell you the best team that I was ever around was the 1996 Mountaineers. We led the nation in total defense.
Yep.
And that team there in 1996 basically didn't need a strength coach because that group there, you talk about some alpha dogs and some leaders. I mean, those guys are like junkyard dogs in the weight room, and they challenged each other. And I point back. That's anything in all my years of coaching. That's one group that stood out to me in 1996. That kids just they were self-driven, and we had great leaders.
Yep, I remember the good football teams. Listen, we're running short of time here, but I do have one more thing to do before I let you guys go. We have a little segment on here we call Shoot to Three. It comes from my basketball background. And Dave, our enforcer, is not here tonight, so I'm going to put this on blank. We give you 3 questions totally unrelated to anything we've talked about, probably anything you've ever talked about. And you got 30 seconds to answer those questions. If you don't, then blank comes down and kneecaps you. But looking at you guys, as big as you guys are, I think we'll just cancel out all the rules.
I didn't volunteer for these 2 guys here.
Yeah, we'll cancel out the Jaws next weekend, so you better get ready.
You
better get with one of these guys. So anyway, we're going to ask you these questions, and to make it fair, Dave, I'll ask you the first one first, and then we'll let Al answer it, and then I'll let Al answer the second one first, and then you can answer it. So we've got 3 of them. All right, Dave, so here we go. What's something that you have done in your lifetime that you will never do again?
Talk back to my mom.
All right. There you go.
That's a good one.
I was getting ready to say we're not really censored here, so whatever it is. So, all right, Al, what's something you've done that you will never do again?
Something very similar. Parents growing up owned a bar. Mother used to always threaten me not to steal candy out of the candy case. And she'd warn me. One day, I sneaked a candy bar. She asked me if I'd been eating candy, and I had chocolate all over my face. I think I was about 8 years old. She backhands me, knocks me off a stool. And guess what? Guess who never went into the candy case again without
No more candy.
No more candy.
All right, Al, you get the second one first. What's a secret talent that you have or something that you're good at that you wish you weren't?
What is? I'm not very talented, so and I'm very limited with that. I'm basically a shy person, but I am extroverted. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep. Sure does. Yep. All right. So you're good at that. He's good at. Hey, I can tell by the storytelling.
Yeah.
He's not. He is extroverted when it comes to that. All right, Dave. What's the secret talent you have, or something you're good at that you wish you weren't?
So you can tell if he's an extrovert, I'm more introverted.
Yeah, we can tell.
Yeah,
That's why we're good friends. We like kind of match up.
it's a good mixture. Yeah.
I could imagine one of your sessions and watching you that you're very introverted. I'm sure. I'd love to come and watch sometime. I always joked about this question. My wife told me stop saying that, but I always said on that question something you're good at, you wish you weren't. And this was back in my college days when I was at Glenville and there wasn't nothing else to do but fish, hunt, and drink. And I always said I could drink 17 beers before I had to get up and go to the bathroom. I'm not proud of it. Not proud of it. wish I wasn't. All right. Question number 3, and I think we're back to Dave now. You get to pick the way that you die, other than old age. How you going to go out?
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious.
Yep.
At least he didn't
Make it
give us.
quick.
At least he didn't give us the Owen
Yeah, I
Smith.
don't want to get into details. They make it you like.
Yeah, Owen Smith. Owen
I'll
Smith
just
had.
say Fast and Furious.
There you go. Owen Smith had an interesting answer to that. It involved the heart attack, but something else going on why made him have the heart attack. So I'm glad we didn't go there. All right, Al. If you get to pick the way you die, other than old age, how you going out?
Sitting in a mountain cabin on a wraparound porch in a rocking chair, and go that way, looking off across the valley.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
I'm sitting in this rocking chair, sitting on a wraparound porch in the middle of nowhere.
That sounds like a good way right there. Guys, it's been a lot of fun and been extremely, extremely interesting. Thank you both so much. Thank Mike Dunlap for hooking me up with you guys. Very interesting subject matter and keenly interested in the way that all works. And we look forward maybe to getting you on again and talking someday. So, again, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we will talk soon with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, you do the same. Thank you. Bye-bye. Man, that's good stuff, man. Oh, gosh, that's
Tell those guys
interesting.
are passionate about it,
Yeah. And both look at their careers.
yeah,
really
look
good
at the resume's not bad, and like they said, they didn't say it, but they spend maybe more hours with the football team than anybody per week. You know, they're probably 68 hours a week,
and all of them.
Yeah,
all the players.
And he was describing that kids' day that you asked about.
Yeah.
Starting at 6 in the morning, he's there at 6,
Right.
and he's there at the end of the
At
night.
the end of the night. Yeah, that's right. All right, we need to get Muggy McLeod on the line here and get his. Hello, is this Muggy McLeod? If not, can you find Muggy McLeod for us?
Yeah, this is Muggy McLeod.
We thought it was. We heard somebody back there going hello, but we didn't. I think that was Misty Raines, maybe Earl.
Sounds like you're in the helicopter, Coach.
Well, let me turn that helicopter down just a little bit. It looks like you got a new helicopter. We announced that on the show. That's why you wasn't with us at the beginning of the show. Is that you were trying to figure out your new helicopter and getting everything functioning properly?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's actually somewhat correct, Coach. But anyway, this is Muggy McLeod, Misty Raines, and as you said, our special guest, Earl the Pearl. And I'm about to tell you why we were running late. Earl the Pearl, a.k.a. the Black Baron. Charlie Brown had his Snoopy, the World War I Schlangens. But I have Earl the Pearl on my side. One eye in the sky, NRN, Chopper 1, traffic and weather report. Hello?
I was just telling him that was Earl sitting up on top of the helicopter.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Coach. And, we are sorry for the delay, but, Coach, we have been circling the dog park in Lower Boomer Holler, looking for landing spots so Earl the Pearl could do his business.
Right.
Unfortunately, Coach, Misty left the poo-poo doo-doo bags at home, so we had to use her pilot's hat. And boy, was she upset, as the FFA requires that the hat be worn at all times during flight.
Maybe that's why our hair collar changed a little bit.
Yes, sir, Coach. So now the windows are rolled down and my mind's rolled up.
You're not sipping on any gin and juice, are you?
It is kind of late.
Rolling. Yes, sir. Anyway, Coach, I wish I was, and maybe after this, I just...
Yeah, me too.
Okay, Coach, so Misty is over her spell and now is heading toward the famous Route 60 Midland Trail through Boomer Holler, home of, that's right, Mark Mosley.
Who?
Who is that, you may ask?
I did say who.
Yes, you did. Muggy, here's a who. Well, anyway, Coach, That gentleman is otherwise known as the West Virginia University great, Stevie Berger.
Oh, okay. We know that guy.
Yes, sir, Coach. His name was Mark Mosley growing up. I witnessed him playing ball and wondered what happened to him, and a friend of mine said that Mark Mosley is now Stevie Berger.
Nothing happened to him other than his name changed.
That's right. He went through a great transition.
Yep.
Anyway, Coach, who's there beside you tonight? I know Mr. Gorby is off trimming his beard and having leftovers.
Mr. Joe, I don't know if you can see the screen up there in the helicopter or not, but Jason Blankenship, former head coach at Oak Hill, football coach of the Red Devils.
Sir. Coach Blank, yes, sir.
That's right.
Good to hear him laughing at me again. All right, Coach. Let's see here. Oh, anyway, Stevie Berger. That guy's a stud. Anyway, otherwise, not much going on down here in Boomer Holler other than the great big meat giant mosquitoes and occasionally an Ara Hopkins sighting on a Sunday morning after a long Saturday night.
That was like Bigfoot walking through there.
Okay, Coach, we are now moving east over the famous Route 60, as I said, the AKA Midland Trail, toward the Elkham Metals plant, known historically for its complicit involvement in the discovery of silicosis at Hawksnest. Yes, maybe you can explain that one to your millions of listeners later on when you have more time.
We'll let Darren explain that. He's an employee down there.
Yes, time. Well, we can call your theory on that the Gregorian theory.
There you go. Good.
Oh, wait a minute. But I recently heard that theory has already been taken. Who knew?
Who knew?
Wow. Now, we are, speaking of time passing Boomer Hill and Boomer Bottom roads. You'd think they'd have put those two roads together and connected them.
Yeah, there's been a Boomer Road.
You would think it would be the top of Boomer Hill that flowed into the bottom of Boomer Bottom.
Yeah.
Hill to the bottom. Yes. Okay. Anyway, Coach, let's see. But they didn't. And we are now at the entrance of the plant and where the famous Polka Dot Lounge is located, or I'm not sure what they named it after the polka dot. But anyway, there's old Trickster Dickster 65 Mustang still parked out front.
Yep.
Did you ever see Tricky Dickie's Mustang out front, Coach?
No, haven't.
No. Okay.
I've seen Tim Dix's Mustang.
No. How about Richard Dix?
No, haven't seen him.
Okay, yeah. He was hiding somewhere. Anyway, Coach, no need to talk about the scenic sights along the trail since they took out the tank and tore down the clinic that I was born in on a hillside.
Yep.
I just wish I could remember the name of that clinic, but it seems to slip my mind.
I was born in the same one.
Oh, were you?
Yes, sir.
No wonder they tore it down on us. Didn't want that stuff to happen again. Okay, on to the weather, Coach. Brought to you by, that's right, the Polka Dot. Mention and get a free polka with every drink you buy, old Dot.
Dot, is she the bartender?
She's at the bar, Coach.
Yeah, she got a one-legged waitress in there. You know what her name is, don't you?
Eileen.
Yeah, that's right. Some call her Peg.
You should see her go around the pole. She only makes one rotation before she flies off.
All right,
okay,
Muggy.
Coach, the weather is crappy and hot.
Yeah.
So, as it's hot as a snow cone machine shovel handle in hell. And it's going to stay hot and crappy, Coach. So get some Freon in your air condition and hydrate.
Amen for that. I hear you. All right, Muggy.
Coach, this has been Muggy McLeod, Misty Rains, the NRN mascot, Earl the Pearl, and your NRN one eye in the eye, one eye in the sky. Traffic on weather team report. Muggy McLeod over and out.
All right, Muggy, over and out. Y'all be safe out there.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, that the weather forecast crappy is about like that segment. It's crappy, pretty crappy. Muggy gets fouled up quite a bit sometimes. He gets excited. I think he's real excited to have Earl on his helicopter. That really pepped him up. I worked on that last night, and I had my hat laying here, but since it's a green hat, you can't really see it.
Yeah, having some issues.
Yeah, and it blends in with the background because we got a green screen. But and you look up there and try to do it Based on what you see, and everything's backwards. So when I move to the right, it goes to the left. That's my Boston Celtics hat I've been sporting for the last few days.
Yep.
About
World champs.
That's right.
Yeah.
NBA champs, 18th time. To all my liquor friends out there, Rob Howell, all you other ones. That's all I got to say. All right. Coach, I appreciate you joining us tonight.
No problem.
That was an interesting show.
Good, yeah.
Good guests. I enjoyed those guys. That was really interesting and always fun to hear. And like I said, next week we got Brian Joswiak on with us. Brian has a big event coming up in July up in Morgantown where he raises money for the Children's Hospital up there, and we're going to get him on and talk about that just a little bit. Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. You can come by and join us, even if Gorby's here. We'll squeeze you right in. We got plenty of room, so you can see. All right, appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate Coach Blankenship for helping me out tonight. Also, Muggy McLeod, Al Johnson, and, of course, Dave Lawson for joining us on the show. We appreciate you watching the Courtside with Coach Crist show here on the New River Network. We'll see you next Thursday night, everybody. Stay tuned for some wrestling. Good night.